spins or setting up itineraries to really put an artist to work or whatever it was. But I said, if I said to myself, if I leave Connecticut, who is going to hold down Connecticut? That was the number one question, because when you coming from New York and you see the welcome to Connecticut, most people at the label will tell you you have to stop over Bridgeport.
That's right.
To catch him right.
That's
to
right.
see Kingslye.
That's right.
And not just stopping there, but have him assist you throughout your run in Connecticut. Whether you might get beat up at the club, because I know people that might eliminate that, or getting the job done. So with that being said, I said to myself, you know what, it can't just be for the money. However, it was a lot of work out there, Juan. I mean, I was working for about 10 labels at one time.
Oh, I know.
Including going on the road, working with 50, being on tour with 50 Cent and all those guys, getting paid for being on the road, getting paid for my street team, putting in work out here, and getting paid for my record store.
Street team.
It was definitely the golden age.
Street team, man. That's a word you don't even hear anymore. You know what I mean? But, okay, so this is Juan Castelo, man. I'm speaking of my man Kingslye. Say, he is with the Connecticut Against Violence. That's what he's doing now, as well as still continue to work with labels. Former DJ, former label.
Well, still a DJ.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm talking back in the day. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But you know what I'm talking about.
Definitely.
I'm sorry, bro. But anyway, but listen, man. That's the foundation, right?
We would not let that go.
That's the foundation. That's the foundation.
That's very close to our heart.
Yeah, no question. And so. So we're talking about his life, and now, I just want to ask you this question. I mean, one of the things that I believe is that, somehow, R&B and even the classic hip hop style is being, compromised right now. And what I mean by the classic hip hop style, as far as rap is concerned, is, in the 90s, we saw a proliferation of rap music working together with R&B artists. I mean, you always had the remixes with the rapper on it, but even more important than that, it was soul music behind it. It had this beat, it had this feeling of soul that was coming from inside. It was coming from black people.
Right.
All right. Of course, we had hip hop was very inclusive, and it brought in all kinds of people into our culture. But by the same token, the foundation of it was soul music. It was R&B, right? Today, all of a sudden, they're calling our music traditional R&B. They're calling our music traditional hip hop, right? Classic hip hop, right? They've got this new thing that they're calling, pop R&B, right? I don't know what that is.
Making up names.
Yeah, they're making up names, right? How do you've been a veteran in the business, man? How do you feel about what's going on?
One, it's just like hip hop music being changed, and then we found out that there was a secret meeting that was called. That you have people in the music business, the executives who have invested into the private prisons and decided to change the music into gangster music. This was not a coincidence. Programming the Lil Waynes and the Rick Ross and the Bobby Shmurdas did not happen coincidentally. It was strategically planned many years ago. So, by them doing that, it opens up the pipeline to prison. So these kids these kids really believe in what they listen to. And like I tell these people, kids are just being kids. It's our responsibility to step to this stage and talk to them about the music that they're listening to.
And it's interesting because for so many years, we had to fight with the powers that be about the fact that, that our music was not really influencing young people, right?
Right.
When in fact it was.
Right.
And it still is. Because lyrics and information that songs give, they influence.
Right.
And we tried to get away from that, and now we realize that in a real sense, look, we know that artists are going to talk about their environment. We know that.
Right. Because that's how I started.
Right, exactly. After a while that gets tired. You can't have 5 albums about, you were selling drugs,
Because you
right?
you had to stop at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And your life changed. So
Right.
what about the new life you're having now, right? You know, and so forth and so on. I mean, big ups to Puffy and them back in the day when they started talking about, okay, we out the street now, and now we partying, right? You know, and we doing all right, you know.
I will give a shout out to my man Gabi.
Yes.
Gabi,
Yes.
you know, Gabi, you know me and Gabi go very far
Yes,
back. We
yes.
sleep in the same bed, no homo, because we were really, you know, we really friends like that. Spent New Year's Eve with him. And, you know, for all you guys who don't know, Gabi Azevedo is the manager of French Montana. And I was also talking about this thing to to these kids in the school the other day. It's very unfortunate you have an artist like Bobby Schmurder who gets signed, right, straight from the streets. He's able to come up with a hit record and he gets signed. You would think that management and record label would take responsibility in making sure that, okay, now you signed, now you got money, so you cannot be chasing the street money. Okay, you would think so. Now I'm saying this because I read an interview about Gabi in the Complex, and he really broke down where he came from. He being loyal to Steve Rifkin when Loud Records went down, until Steve came up with, until Gabi discovered Akon. And actually I was at Gabi's house when he had me listening to Akon before he went to go drop the record off at Flex.
I remember when you
I brought Akon to
That's right.
Connecticut, right?
Right.
So I'm saying all this to say that Gabi put this interview where he breaks down what management is, how he manages. What's his name? He manages French Montana for staying out of trouble, not bringing all those extra people who plays no part in his everyday life, making sure French stays out of trouble. You see, so you have Bobby Schmurder who come on the scene with a hit record on the Billboard chart, and then all of a sudden you in jail for $2 million bond. You see, the labels and the managers also plays a big part. You know,
which is what you're talking about. How, what it's doing is basically setting up this pipeline to the joint.
exactly.
And I get that. Let's move on to what you're doing in addition to still continue to be in the music industry. And this, I love you for this, man, because this is something that, a lot of people talk about, and of course with social media, everybody's talking about trying to help our kids and trying to change and, but, what about putting your foot on the ground, right? Connecticut Against Violence. Tell me about the organization.
Connecticut Against Violence, well, we started with a mission of bridging the cultures of law enforcement and the community while preventing violence and promoting justice. But somehow it looked like we've been a little bit away from that mission, from going on the ground and putting in the real, real work besides just bridging the culture. One, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, it was probably 2011 when I started to manage a club that we were taking down from Club Low to Evolution Nightclub, and
Yeah.
I called you and I was trying to get some air time purchase, and you and I was on the phone for about an hour,
Yes.
at least, and it was a prime time of violence at its highest peak in Connecticut in general.
Right.
And we had a very intense conversation, and you were telling me about your background and all the stuff you was involved with, and I will have to say that yes, you did play a part in where I am right now after having a conversation with you, sharing our passion of what we wanted to do for our community. At that time, what I'm doing right now is not what I was thinking of doing, because I was talking to you about a club business
Right.
that I was into, managing a big club.
Yes.
And when that club opened, after bringing a couple of artists through, bringing Flex, DJ Khaled, Ace Hood, and Kikapri, within a couple of weeks after it opened, the old managers, the old owners who were involved took back over the club. And when that happened, that's when I started Connecticut Against Violence. And in 2012, we hit the ground. Now, like we said, with me, as long as music is a part of it, I'm good. So, I called on my fellow community members. I said, DJs, promoters, we are always doing something for money. Yes, we got a party here, $15 to get in. We got a party here, $20 to get in. These kids are killing each other. They have nowhere to go. They create their own parties. And on their way home, they end up getting into fights. A 13-year-old kid got killed named Justin Thompson. And when that happened, going from a party home, and when that happened, I felt like, you know what, it was time to take a moral responsibility. And when I called out to the community, you know, a lot of people stepped up that they were willing to get involved. And when that happened, you know, before I went to sleep, I started thinking, what do I call this? You know, what name do I come up with? You know, how do I create a logo? My brain when I decide to do something, my brain started moving real fast. And, you know, yeah, I decided to put in my knowledge of marketing behind the organization, because you have to make it cool for these kids. If you really want to talk to kids, we are basically changing the old textbooks of how to deal with violence. It doesn't work anymore. This case is not using tape decks. You know, this case is not using street team approach to, you know, to listen to music. It's digital. They hit one button and that's it. So why can't we change the ways to go along with how, you know, how their everyday life is? So
you've had a series of events. Tell us about some of them, and you had some, you know, lately. So talk about some of those events and how did you accomplish, you know, what the focus of the organization is about?
What we do is we use you know, we use music as a way to educate a kid about violence. You know, you have an example last week. You know, you had 11 students at Wesleyan University sent to the hospital. Well, I won't say last week, but, you know, a few weeks ago, sent to the hospital for using Mali. You know, Mali has been very big in hip hop. And where does this kid hear this Mali from? From the music. You know, I recall when I was on tour with 50 and we went to see DJ Screw. We went to DJ Screw's store. I think it was probably 2001 or 2002. And you know, DJ Screw, who was behind, you know, inspired by the music, sipping on some scissor by the 3-6 Mafia. You know, these kids don't know. These kids call it lean. You see, the original name is Scissor.
Right.
You see, and DJ Screw died of heart attack by Scissor. Just recently, there's a guy named ASAP Yams, who's behind ASAP Rocky, who just died from, you know, this lean stuff. So this thing is real.